Episode 9, Chapter 8, Ring of Fire. Chapter 8, Ring of Fire. Against all logic, the glow of the fires was dim and dark. Although one touch would sear the flesh from any life form unaccustomed to the flames, their hue showed no signs of this, only allowing slight light to escape from them and wash throughout the bottom of the Gurgu volcano. To some of its dwellers, however, this made no difference, such as the red-scaled hydra that thrashed along the lava flow in confusion. Although it had 5 separate heads on snaky necks that grew out from a fish-like body, none of them held a single eye. The hydras used other senses to guide them. On this occasion, though, this one was most definitely lost, as shown by how it bumped into a reptilian bulk greater than 10 times its size, scales a much more vibrant ruby than the hydra's dull crimson. Grunting in irritation, the beast turned its head around to glare down at the cowering servant.
"Lost, are we?"
the red dragon growled.
"You had better get not lost soon, then. If Lady Carrie finds you down here, she'll have you for lunch today. And the next day, and the next, and every day for the rest of eternity. I don't think you would like that. Get out of here."
Heads flailing in panic, the hydra swam away at breakneck pace. Sighing, the red dragon continued on his own path through the lava channels, and soon reached his destination. Shouldering open the heavy steel doors, he beheld his mistress, Carrie, Fiend of Fire.
"Ah, good morning, Ifrit."
Carrie yawned, stretching all of her arms in different directions.
"Did you sleep well?" "Tolerable, my lady."
Ifrit bowed his head, not bothering to elaborate. In truth, his dreams had been of a time long ago. A dragon he no longer was, and he would have preferred to have forgotten such things entirely. That was no interest of his mistress, though.
"And yourself?" "Wonderful."
The Fiend of Fire purred, tiny flames dancing in her eyes.
"He approaches, and the closer he becomes to me the greater his fear grows. And the greater his fear, the closer I can bring him to envisioning his true fate. It was marvelous."
She shuddered, smiling, and Ifrit coughed politely.
"Yes, well. I am glad to hear you enjoyed your slumber, milady."
Privately, the red dragon hoped that he could head her off of this line of conversation. One of his primary duties to her was a sort of confidant, listening to her private thoughts, and the light warrior mage had grown to occupy them increasingly over the past years. On several occasions, it had become quite embarrassing.
"I always enjoy my slumber, Ifrit."
Carrie laughed.
"You know that."
She paused, eyes narrowing.
"As does our guest. I know you're there, Kraken. You may as well show yourself."
Ifrit's head shot around in surprise to stare at the ceremonial cloud of darkness that had appeared, cloaking the Fiend of Water.
"Just waiting for you to rouse yourself, sister. Wouldn't want to disturb your beauty sleep, after all."
Kraken greeted her sneeringly.
"It is important. You could stand with a healthy dose of that yourself, brother."
Carrie returned with a wicked smile.
"Welcome to Gurgu. I'm afraid I can't exactly turn the heat down." "Hilarious,"
Kraken murmured.
"It's quite all right. I have been here before. Others, however, who have not, seem to be approaching. Significant others." "Indeed. I'm quite looking forward to it."
Carrie leaned back on her throne.
"One of them, anyways. I don't care about the other 3, but the one who bears the orb of fire. I highly anticipate his arrival." "That may not exactly be the wisest course of action."
The Fiend of Water shook his head.
"They did kill Lich, after all. I doubt you will be able to make your will and wishes for them into reality as easily as you want." "Perhaps,"
Carrie conceded.
"But as it is currently in relation to me, I don't see why you would be concerned, Kraken. Unless you offer to help, that is. As a matter of fact, that's exactly what I'm offering.
Kraken replied with no trace of sarcasm.
Not with my own hand, that would be useless, this far from the sea shrine and in your center of power to boot, and most of my strongest minions would die quickly here. However, there are the wizard ogres. If you agree, I'd be happy to send a squad of them here to support your servants. Mix things up a bit. Ogres.
Carrie blinked, surprised.
I thought they served lich. These were an experiment, some centuries back.
Kraken explained.
We wanted to see what happened when life forms accepted blessings from two of us. The success rate was even more reduced. Less than 5% of the green ogres survived the subsequent taking of my blessing, but the few that did make it have been breeding ever since, and they're quite substantial around Onrak now. Wizard ogres. An interesting concept.
Carrie mused.
Very well, I'll take them. However,
she smiled unpleasantly.
I do wonder as to why. Be honest, Kraken, we've never been fond of each other. Why the sudden urge to contribute to my survival? If you must know, it's not about you.
The Fiend of Water growled, eyes flashing.
It's about Miss High and Mighty, I told you so. I want to see that stupid prophecy smashed, and all her worries proved unfounded. I see. Well, I'm of similar opinion of you on that.
Carrie conceded, then smirked darkly.
Plus, if they die here, you don't have to worry about confronting them, right?
Kraken scowled.
I don't worry anyways, that's Tiamat. I just want to show her what is that.
He broke off, staring at the unfortunate red hydra as a lava current carried it past the room. Carrie rose, eyes burning, and Ifrit groaned.
One of them, down here? The impudent worm, not, I'll. That's a hydra.
Kraken interrupted with a shrill protest.
They're water dwellers. My domain. You've given your blessing to some of them.
Slowly, Carrie turned to regard him, anger fading from her face to be replaced by amusement.
Why not? I offer my blessing to all who can take it. And once they've been changed, they swim through lava as easily as water. It's not like you give hydras your blessing. As far as I'm concerned, that means they're fair game.
Kraken stared at her, sputtering, before raising his tentacles and giving in.
Whatever. I'll go get those wizard ogres, then.
He disappeared along with his cloud, and the Fiend of Fire chuckled, then glanced at Ifrit, who had watched the exchange between fiends without a word.
Oh, are you still here, Ifrit?
Carrie waved a hand dismissively at him.
Go find that red hydra and get him out of here. I'll spare his life for making Kraken spaz like that, but if I have to see him down here again, I might forget myself. Show him the way back to the upper level before I do. Ah. Right, mistress.
The red dragon stood and walked out, leaving the Fiend of Fire alone with her thoughts. And as she remembered her dreams, Carrie smiled, fierce and cruel.
Ugh. Even this early, it is too freaking hot for this.
Drake muttered as he glanced over the side of the canoe at the school of carnivorous Caribe fish that were swimming towards them. After a moment, the elf winced and looked at Vlad.
Sorry, man. Didn't mean to bring it up.
The black mage grunted, boiling the water around the fish with a basic fire spell. Steaming, the Caribes floated to the surface, and Luke happily speared them into the boat.
Awesome, breakfast. Good thinking, Vlad.
Vlad shrugged and took a fish, looking behind them at Crescent Lake as they ate. Since they had awoken and set out for the volcano, the Black Mage had not said a single coherent word, even during their clumsy beginning at attempting to move the canoe without expert assistance that had garnered curses from the other three. Mary's use of a certain four-letter word after she had slipped and banged the back of her head on the rail had surprised them all. His combat prowess had not suffered, as the Caribbean and similar incidents showed. The river monsters seemed even more ornery than those on land, perhaps because of the heat, but there was nonetheless something off about the Black Mage on this day, that all of them noticed and none of them spoke of. They simply continued along the twisting, winding waterways of Crescent Lake, following the map given to them that would lead them to their goal.
Right, we turn left this time,
Mary instructed as they came to another intersection, and the others followed her instructions, manipulating the oars to guide them down the path.
We're getting close now. This canoe moves much faster than we could on foot. Not quite as fast as the Amphitrite, but we can't exactly bring it in here. Yeah.
Drake looked around at the narrow cliffs alongside the river.
Bike's a good-humored fella, but I don't think even he would be laughing if we tore the ship's sides off.
He paused in his rowing for a moment to dig around in his pack and take out the orb of earth.
Well, if we're getting close, might as well ask about some things. He said he'd come if I used this. Indeed I did.
The element of Earth's voice came from the cliffside, and a moment later, his face appeared in the stone.
And so, I am here. I'm a bit nervous this close to Carrie, to be honest, but I don't think she's noticed me. How can I help you? I hope you're not counting on me knocking down ceilings or anything in there. No.
Drake laughed, picking his oar back up.
I was just hoping you could tell us some things about what to expect in the way of opposition. Aha! Well then, happy to oblige.
Earth winked, face easily moving along the cliffs to follow them.
To start with, most of the native wildlife around here. But that shouldn't be much of a problem for you by now. No, what you'll want to watch out for is, well, how to put this? Are you familiar with the Fiend's Blessing? Never heard of it,
Mary admitted, and the other three shook their heads as well.
Oh dear. I was afraid of that.
Earth sighed.
Basically, it's like a spell. Monsters who have pleased one of the fiends can choose to accept their blessing, a tiny portion of the fiend that is implanted into the monster's body. It stands a chance of killing them, but if it doesn't, it changes the monster significantly, warping their body into something stronger. The most obvious physical identification of this is a change in color. Oh, like green ogres.
Drake snapped his fingers.
I get it now. Exactly. Those were ogres who had received Lich's blessing.
Earth nodded.
So then, there are many monsters in the volcano who have received Kari's blessing. Be especially wary of any beasts that are red-skinned.
He paused for a moment, frowning.
Most of all, though, she has one servant in particular. An evil dragon, one of those who follow Tiamat, who was sent to her sister of fire. That one will easily be the greatest threat, save Carrie herself. Be wary of it. We'll keep that in mind,
Luke promised.
Right, it should be just around this bend. I'll leave, then, so as not to give you away.
Earth melted back into the cliff.
Good luck. You can do it, I know.
Turning the bend, the light warriors came to the shore and a line of trees, part of a ring that surrounded another ring of water around the island on which the Gurgu volcano sat. Beaching the canoe, they carried it through the trees, and then crossed the short distance to the island, looking up at the towering spire as they did. Hundreds of feet tall, mouth a charred black, the Gurgu volcano seemed unusually quiet and placid. The only hint of what lurked within was a dull red glow barely visible atop the volcano's peak, and inside the cavern mouth that led further in, on the ground level.
Showtime again, looks like.
Drake muttered as they parked the canoe.
No beating around the bush. We might as well go.
He stepped out of the little boat, and after a moment Luke and Mary followed. But Vlad did not.
Brother.
Mary turned to look at him, crouched motionless in the canoe.
What is it? I can't.
The black mage whispered, staring down.
I can't go. Not in there. I just can't.
Luke and Drake glanced at each other.
Come on, man.
The elf attempted.
Look, it might be bad, but we've gone through a lot of shit already. It's not that.
Vlad shook his head.
I want to go. I want to get out of this boat. But my feet won't move. Neither will the rest of my body. I'm scared like nothing else. I can't even think straight. Just one thought of going in there, and I froze up. I couldn't move right now if my life depended on it. I'm paralyzing myself. It's that bad?
Mary wondered.
It was never this bad before. Just the opposite, the worse it got the more active you were, trying to escape it. Those were just dreams. Here, I'm going at the real thing.
Vlad began shaking.
I can't. I think we need to know about this.
Luke's face grew grim, overriding protests from the other two.
I've been groping around the edges of this for a while now, but now, I think you should tell me and Drake the whole story, Vlad. It looks like it's important. All right.
Vlad agreed after a moment.
Ever since I was little, I've had dreams. Continuous ones, all more or less the same. All about fire.
As he spoke, the black mage drew his hat off, revealing his withered face once more.
Fire that burned me, forever. Eternal pain, that would never stop, never go out. And carry there, causing it all, and wanting more. It was more horrible than I could ever imagine at that age, and even now, I haven't found anything to top it. Every night, after only a few hours of sleep, I'd wake up screaming. That's why I don't sleep much. I can't go back to that after waking from it, not for another day, and when I do it's the same nightmares again. Mary and Merton are the only ones I told about this before. And they couldn't stop them. Nothing can. That fear. It's become part of me, a big part. And now, it's controlling me. I'm afraid, guys. Too much. I can't go on. I'm sorry. Man.
Drake shook his head.
You had it just as rough as I did? I never would have figured. I don't know.
Mary was biting her lip.
Neither do I. I don't know what to do. How to help him. I can't help him.
She looked as if she was about to break down herself. Only Luke was remaining solid, stone-faced, as he looked down at his cringing friend.
You've been trying to make him feel better the whole time, huh? Trying to help him forget?
He asked the white mage, who nodded.
Figures. Usually the right move. But not this time. I'm gonna have to ask you all to forgive me. But I'm also gonna have to ask you two to stay out of this.
Before Mary and Drake could respond, the brawny fighter's hands shot out, picking Vlad up bodily by the front of his robes and hauling him out of the canoe.
No.
Vlad howled.
Put me back. Don't. I don't think so.
Luke disagreed, turning towards the volcano.
Hold on, man.
Drake protested.
This is a bit much. Let him go.
Mary agreed.
Don't. I said stay out of this.
Their leader barked.
This is the only way. No, no, no.
Vlad shrieked, flailing around.
Put me down, please. Please. Make me.
Luke told him, continuing to advance on Gergo.
If you can. What?
Vlad stared at him.
You want me to hurt you? That's the only way you'll stop me.
Luke insisted.
And you don't have to hurt me that much to do it. You know you can. Do it. Make me stop, or I won't.
Vlad's eyes contracted, and he slowly raised his hands.
I'm sorry.
Green gas poured into Luke's face, and he stopped, snoring, letting the black mage tumble down to his feet. Vlad remained there, shivering, as Drake roused Luke.
Huh? You did it. Knew you could.
The fighter grinned down at his friend.
See? You can push past that sort of thing, if you really out your mind to it. If it's important enough. That was the fear that made me do that.
Vlad hissed.
You made me so afraid, I attacked my own friend. That was what you wanted. Yeah. Now we just gotta find something in you more important than the fear.
Luke explained.
And you'll push past that, the same way. It won't work.
Vlad disagreed.
There's nothing that hits me harder than this. I dunno. There's something I've been wondering about.
The fighter began walking back and forth.
I'm not too bright, but even I know nightmares like that ain't natural. They don't just happen for no reason. There's gotta be something behind 'em. Some reason. Got a point.
Drake agreed.
And I'm starting to think it might be more like my deal than I figured at first. Exactly.
Luke stopped and turned back to Vlad.
You said Kari's always there. Always watching. Does this mean in those dreams, she's the source of those fires that scare you so much? Yeah. She's doing it all. Using me as fuel for the fire. For her fire.
Vlad agreed.
Why? It's obvious, if you can look at it. Object. Whatever.
Luke floundered for a bit.
Objectively.
Drake suggested, and the fighter nodded.
Objectively. That's it.
He looked at Mary, who was covering her face with one hand.
Your sister figured it out, probably years ago. But she didn't tell you because she thought it would make it worse. She wanted to try and make it go away, make you forget it all. Make it stop. A good approach normally, but this time it didn't work. 'Cause this ain't a normal time. And they ain't normal nightmares. They're deliberate. Being caused, created, whatever. By somebody who wants you to be like this, and screwed up your life just to make it happen.
Slowly, Vlad raised his head to stare at the leader.
Kari. Bingo.
Luke nodded.
She's behind the dreams. I dunno how, but she's been sending you those images. She's been doing it all this time, ruining you, just to be a bitch. And now, here, we've come to her place to beat the shit out of her. Pay her back. You can pay her back, for all of that. Make her regret every bit of it. And when you do, it'll stop. You can end it. End her, as painful as possible. When she dies, the dreams die too. You'll never have to face them again. And the slime responsible can die, screaming, at our hands today. But we can't do it without you. We need you, just like any of us. You gotta make it happen. Because this one's all about you. So, You ready to hand carry the bill for all those years?
Without a word, Vlad stood. He walked past them, to the canoe, none of them making a move to stop him. His steps were firm, unshaking, and when he reached the boat, he only stooped to retrieve the pointed straw hat, which he settled back upon his head before turning to them, eyes glowing fiercer than ever before.
Let's go!
The black mage snarled.
Let's kill us a fiend!
Luke grinned.
Heh! Good! Sorry about the rough stuff. It was the only way.
Vlad shrugged.
I know it now. You ready? Definitely.
Drake winked, drawing his sword.
More than.
Mary agreed, wiping her eyes and smiling.
Oh yeah.
Luke turned and began to walk, the others following.
In we go, then.
Vlad grinned beneath his hat, wide and without humor at all.
You were right. There is something more than that fear. Right now? Payback sounds pretty damn good. Arg, it's hot in here.
Drake winced as a waft of searing air washed over them all.
We should be able to see clearly in a moment. Whoa!
Walking down the curved entrance tunnel, the four light warriors stopped and stared at what lay ahead of them. A massive central chamber filled with a bubbling, molten lava, only a thin layer of it covering the aged, hardened layer that formed the floor, but still hot enough to kill. Endless, it oozed from cracks in said floor, to flow towards the center of the room, where a huge black hole yawned like the maw of some titanic beast, the lava endlessly pouring down into its depths. Vlad shuddered, but did not turn back.
Sister, I think we'll need your help here.
The black mage informed Mary.
We can't walk through that by ourselves and live. I've got it covered, brother. I made sure to study this spell extensively in Elfland to prepare for this.
Mary raised her hands, and silver flames appeared in her palms, fires without heat that washed over them all.
There. That anti-fire should protect us from the heat. It'll still hurt when we have to walk through that lava, but it won't take our legs off, so as long as we hurry we'll live. There don't seem to be any monsters on this floor. Good.
Luke noted.
All right, looks like that tunnel over on the other side leads further down. Charge! Ow, ow, ow!
Grunting and yelping, the light warriors dashed across the lava, carefully avoiding the pit in the center as they made for the other side. Over his shoulder, Luke detected a flicker of movement, and groaned as a pair of sphinxes flew up out of the pit.
Aw man, spoke too soon.
Green-hided, the beasts were a mishmash of lion, dragon, and scorpion, with the heads of men.
I've got this, keep running.
Without even looking, Vlad pointed his hands over his shoulders, and lightning bolts lashed the sphinxes. Shrieking, the creatures spiraled back into the depths in trails of smoke.
Good one.
Drake grinned as they reached the other side and gratefully left the lava.
Didn't even have to sight it. It seemed appropriate.
Vlad looked down at his feet.
Singed, but that's all. Good. Right, let's head on down.
Luke led the way further into the volcano, and the others followed, down the curving path. Soon, the path changed, the light of the lava faded, and the curving of the path straightened out, until they were in a thin, straight hall, lit only by the dim red glow of the walls. Before long, the hall began bending and turning, and soon there were several different ways available.
A labyrinth.
Mary realized.
Lovely. Well, which way shall we go? Might as well be that one.
Drake shrugged, indicating the way to their left. As they started down that path, however, 4 other forms emerged, lava gargoyles, Molten beasts of living stone.
Or not. Wrong way. Gotta fight them now.
Luke growled, lunging at one, and with a muttered oath the elf followed suit, leaving the other two for Mary and Vlad. The black mage instantly cast an ice spell, freezing the red gargoyle solid. Lava cooled into lifelessness. Mary, though, could only swing her hammer, and the gargoyle sprang back, losing an arm but remaining alive. Shrieking, it belched a fire blast that seared them all. Vlad faltered under the heat, but only for a moment, before lunging out and hurling his dagger into the beast's maw and following with a single lightning bolt that tracked the dagger and blazed through it into the gargoyle's brain. Retrieving his weapon from the dead beast, he glanced at Mary.
You all right? I should be asking you that.
Mary healed them both.
You and fire. That was nothing.
Vlad scoffed.
I could make a fire blast like that without even trying, now. Save your worries for the real thing. We're fine too, in case anybody was wondering.
Drake announced lightly as he and Luke stepped away from the corpses of their enemies.
Shall we go, then?
The light warriors continued down the twisting labyrinth, dispatching the occasional enemy they came across. Eventually, they spotted a glow ahead of them.
All right, either we're through with this labyrinth, or we got turned around so much we're back where we came in.
Drake reasoned.
Please, Earth, let it be the first. I'll buy you a drink if it is. That just may be the most unorthodox prayer I've ever heard.
Mary noted as they emerged into the room beyond.
Looks like it worked, though. This isn't where we came from.
The way ahead was a veritable lake of lava, with only a few islands of safety poking up along the way.
Will this support our weight? Only one way to find out.
Drake stepped out and winced as he slowly began to sink, then jumped back.
Mostly. If we're fast and go for those little islands, we should be okay. Let's go, then.
Luke barked, and they ran for it. Instantly, the lava erupted in hissing heads.
Hydras.
Mary recognized.
They're water dwellers. What the heck? They're red. Carrie must have blessed them.
Drake realized.
They swim in lava now. Don't stop, get to the island, we'll fight them off there.
Ignoring the lashing bites on their backs, the light warriors lunged for the first island, then turned and returned the sentiment with sword and spell. As it turned out, more hydras would emerge every time they continued on, but they were able to fend them off without taking too much damage, which Mary's spells easily countered.
Are you okay?
Drake inquired as they reached the other side and continued down a thinner river of lava, mostly being able to stand on cooled ground at the edges.
You're not going to exhaust yourself like you did with Lich again, are you? I'm fine.
The white mage assured him.
So far, we've only needed very mild healings. I won't be anywhere near in trouble until we get to Carrie herself, and when that happens...
She shrugged.
Well, let's just hope we don't get carved up as much as with Lich.
They continued down the lava river for quite some time, fending off the Fiend of Fire's minions. In addition to the hydras, angry hyenas had been given the blessing as well. Far more unpleasant, though, was the moment when they had turned a corner and discovered giants with iguanas on leashes, all of them blazing red with the blessing.
Well, that was unpleasant.
Drake summed up the brawl once they had finished and continued on.
Have I mentioned how glad I am you're around, Miss Mary? You're just saying that because your arm isn't broken anymore.
The white mage chided him mock-severely.
Hello, what's this?
The lava river forked up ahead, one way led straight down the tunnel, but the other ended in front of a small cavern mouth.
That looks interesting. Let's check it out.
Drake suggested. Shrugging, the others followed him into a small room with 2 treasure chests.
Ooh, bonus!
Inside were a sword and shield, but they did not match indeed, they were complete opposites. The blade looked like a massive, sharpened icicle, white and grey and cold to the blade, although the hilt was insulated. The shield was red and orange, carved to resemble leaping flames.
Enchanted,
Vlad explained.
the sword with ice, the shield with fire. That blade will doubtless be effective against the enemies here, while the shield? Not so much, but if we ever go up against ice monsters, it will come in handy. They look better than my silver stuff, anyways.
Luke noted, happily taking up the heavy gear.
Wonder why this sword's here, though? Odd place for something that would actually help us against Carrie. Maybe she didn't trust it anywhere else.
Drake turned around, then froze.
Or maybe it was a trap.
The others spun as well and stared at the 4 hulking figures that loomed outside of the room. They were ogres, but of a new color, blue, with dangerously intelligent eyes and clubs that looked more like wands or staffs, thinner and made of a strange blue metal.
Wizard ogres? Here!
Mary gasped, and the elf's eyes widened.
Wizard ogres? Wizard ogres!
Drake demanded.
Ogres can't do magic. They wouldn't even know which way to point it.
One of the enemy grinned and leveled its weapon at him, casting a cloud of darkness that darkened his eyes.
Ah! I'm blind.
Another one laughed and released a now familiar spray of icicles. Instantly, Luke ran forward and threw up his shield, deflecting most of them.
An ice spell, when I just got this. Looks like they're still not too bright.
The fighter scoffed. A third one growled at that and prepared to cast its own spell, then stopped, voiceless. The others all stared at him, then examined themselves, and discovered that they were equally mute. The distraction proved severe enough for Luke to easily remove one of their heads, at which point they simply charged, muscles bulging, in the traditional ogre fashion.
Mute saves the day again.
Drake crowed as Mary removed the blackness from his eyes with another spell, then charged in to help Luke and Vlad finish off the remaining foes.
Well, that take care of that.
Vlad noted once they were all down.
Shame for whoever planned that ambush. It seems a little subtle for Carrie. Whoever it was, I'm sure they're horribly disappointed. Shall we press on?
Returning to the lava river, they continued down its length until it finally ended, spilling over a precipice into a massive, circular chasm with more lava falls covering every inch of the wall. Wincing, Luke leaned over and looked up for a moment before pulling back.
This is the big pit that we saw at the start, all right. Looks like we're near the bottom. We should be able to jump safely. Or, we could just climb down that ladder carved into the wall below us.
Drake suggested, and the fighter nodded.
Yeah, we could. If you like climbing down a ladder covered in molten lava, even with Mary's anti-fire spell. I have a different plan. Let's jump.
The elf replied without missing a beat as they did so, hurling themselves through the lava fall from overhead onto the floor below. They landed on a small island in the center of the chamber. Now, through the lava falls, they saw 8 separate tunnels stretching out, equally spaced around each other.
Might as well try one.
Luke shrugged. Doing so, they found at the end of the path an empty room, with only a few ceremonial-looking candles occupying it. The same filled several others. The next few rooms were identical. It wasn't until the 4th one that they found something different. Very different.
Ah! You would be the light warriors, then.
The huge, red-scaled dragon curled around the back of the room yawned, stretching. Rearing up onto its hind legs, it regarded them coolly.
I thought I heard some noise from up above. Ah! Wrong door, I think.
Mary suggested.
Actually, would you believe us if we said we were iguana exterminators?
Drake chuckled weakly.
You seem to have a really nasty breed of here. How droll.
The dragon gave the sort of grin normally seen on similarly reptilian faces by unfortunate rivergoers about 5 seconds too late.
Unfortunately, I don't think I would. It's not that I doubt my lady's ability to destroy you, you understand. It's simply my duty to attempt to deal with you first. As to if my attempt will succeed.
He shrugged.
Well, that's up to you, isn't it?
Suddenly lunging out with one claw, he slashed Luke across the chest and sent the fighter tumbling back. Laughing, the red dragon launched himself into the air and soared down towards them, only to meet Vlad's spray of icicles. With his massive size and wings spread, the beast was a giant target for the spell, and he went down, groaning.
Good one.
Drake chuckled.
Let's finish this, boss. Right.
Luke got back to his feet, and the two of them charged. As they neared him, the dragon's head shot out, fangs bared.
I'm made of more than that, boys.
Luke met him with his sword, fangs clashing against cold metal, and the beast's eyes widened in pain.
The ice sword. Damn. That's not the only one we've got.
Drake grinned, lashing out at one of the dragon's wings with the sword he had found in the Temple of Fiends.
This sucker was designed to kill dragons.
The red-scaled brute howled as the wing was completely severed.
No more flying around for you. Enough of this.
The red dragon drew its head back and inhaled.
Now, taste real firepower.
From its maw, a massive blaze spread out, expanding to cover them all. Vlad and Mary gasped in pain and bent over, but the other two light warriors grit their teeth and continued slashing, inflicting dreadful wounds on the red dragon's hide. Snarling, he slammed them back with his claws.
Tough bugger.
Luke grunted.
Well, he is a dragon.
Drake reminded him, then blinked as Vlad ran between them, robe still smoking.
Hey, what are you? Fool.
The dragon laughed.
This time, my blaze will kill you.
As he opened his mouth to inhale again, however, the black mage finished muttering the words to his spell, and a noxious blue gas was created, blowing into the enemy's face. Surprised, the red dragon inhaled the fumes, then froze, no blaze coming forth.
What was that? Deadly poison. The Bane spell.
Vlad explained as Mary rose and began healing them, all four watching the red dragon slowly fall over, expression of surprise still frozen on his dead features.
Well, that was unpleasant.
He pointed beyond the corpse at a treasure chest.
Looks like we may have a prize for it, though.
Inside was a heavy breastplate in the same blazing, enameled style of the shield they had found earlier.
Before you ask, yes, it's like the shield. Looks like good stuff, though. Very nice.
Luke ran a finger over the flames.
I think I'll take it along. Might be a bit hot to wear down here, but once we're on our way again.
Grunting, he stowed the armor into his pack with a bit of difficulty, then almost as an afterthought wiped his sword off on the dead dragon and sheathed it.
Well then, let's keep checking these rooms. Just a suggestion, though, from now on.
Drake said as they left the room.
I'm getting the feeling one of these will have Carrie herself in them, so from now on, let's peek through the doors before we open them, That way we'll have time to prepare.
As it turned out, that was definitely the right move. The seventh room they checked did, indeed, hold the altar of fire within it. Backing away from the crack in the door, Luke nodded at his friends.
She's in there. All right. I'll recast the anti-fire spell, just to be safe.
Mary did so, then handed out healing potions.
All right then. I think that's about all we can do.
Vlad finished casting the fast spells on both Luke and Drake, took a deep breath, then nodded firmly.
Let's do it, then.
Side by side, they kicked the door open, and beheld the altar of fire. At first glance, the room appeared to be simple and bare, the only features being the altar and throne, the former of which held a glowing blue sphere. As they actually entered, however, all 4 light warriors detected an odd smell, as well as a sticky substance on their feet.
Oil.
Mary grimly identified.
All over the floor. Once she actually comes out, this place will be an inferno. That anti-fire really was a good idea. You recognize it? Good.
A voice hissed from the sphere as it cracked open, and steam, black as the oil but blisteringly hot, rose out of it. And then the steam began to take shape, long and winding, sinuous and coiling. The purple-scaled coils of a snake, that gradually shifted into bright red skin, the torso of a woman with 6 arms, each of them holding a sword of a different shape. Despite the obvious inhumanity, some would have considered the fiend of fire beautiful, until they saw her head crowned by a mass of flaming hair, her face held cruelty and sadism and an eternal, insane hunger, all in a pair of blazing yellow eyes and a grinning, far too wide mouth. As her form solidified, the darkness washed over them all, and again the light warriors froze for a moment, feeling anew the weight of the evil before them.
Welcome to Gurgu. I am Carrie, fiend of fire, and I have been waiting for you.
She arched an eyebrow mockingly.
Was it truly necessary to kill Ifrit? Hey, he started it.
Drake recovered and shot her an equally mocking grin.
You know who we are, then? I don't need to bother trying the iguana exterminator's line again.
Carrie nodded.
Of course. 3 of you are the Tinder who killed Lich. That certainly woke me up. A shame. I was having such a splendid dream. Which leads me to the other. Vlad. I know you all too well. It's so nice of you to finally pay me a visit.
Her eyes fixed on him, and a forked tongue darted out between her smiling lips.
Now that you're finally here, I can show you the full force of fire, and you shall burn in my flames. I hope you're looking forward to it. I certainly am. So, Luke was right.
Vlad growled.
Everything I've gone through, everything that's ruined me. You did it. Intentionally. Of course.
Carrie laughed.
Did it really take you that long to figure out? I was certainly there enough. Even when you weren't, I slept as much as I could, so that I could be in the world of dreams to catch you the moment you came. I couldn't help it. You're just that fascinating to me. I want you so much. I had to do it, to pass the time until you came to me for real. We are linked together, little mortal. We have a bond, one that will be permanently branded on your soul today.
Vlad bowed his head.
We have a bond, huh? All right. Then if we really do, just answer me this. Why? Why did you have such an obsession with me? The others didn't. Lich killed Drake's family, but that's hardly the same thing, and Kraken and Tiamat haven't done anything that I know about to Luke and my sister. Why you and me? Ho! You're actually requesting something of me. How cute.
Kari's smile grew even wider.
Why not? To be honest, if you can believe that I can be honest, I don't totally know myself. All I know is that on the moment of my last awakening, I knew of you, and that you would come someday. And as soon as I knew that I wanted you more than anything, ever. To destroy you, to burn you, to ignite you, to make you mine.
For a moment, her eyes held something else.
Since you asked me nicely, just one time, then I'll tell you something nice back, just one time. I suspect the root of this lies not in me, but in my alternate. We are connected, you know. Opposite sides of a coin. If you win, somehow, like with Lich, ask her. I'm sure she knows.
The look faded, and once more the Fiend of Fire's face held only malice.
But that's not going to happen. Because you're going to die now. Your friends will go on to the other side, but you're staying right here with me. Now, and forever. I don't think so.
Vlad raised his head again and glared, eyes glowing red.
Thanks for the tip, though. I'll make sure to ask her, after we obliterate you.
Carrie laughed.
All right then, let's see it. I'll even give you the first shot, and I won't move until it's done, as long as it's fire. Let me see the hottest flame you can summon. Let's see how bright your power burns, before I show you mine. Do you think we're stupid?
Luke shook his head.
You're the Fiend of Fire. Fire spells aren't gonna do much to you. Hell, they might even make you stronger.
Carrie looked at him for a moment, then raised a hand to her mouth. Spitting, she then turned the hand to them, showing the small glob of fire as it burned her flesh, doing obvious damage a tiny bit, but harm nonetheless.
Fire is not like the other elements. Its direct touch consumes everything. And I am a reflection of fire. I hold no immunity to it. Your fires will harm me, Vlad, just as much as any of your other spells. So don't hold back. I hate when people hold back. Show me the brightest blaze you can, all of you, so I can crush you from the fullest height.
Vlad's hands began to smoke.
All right then. Wish granted.
There was no outward motion, no direction. Instantly, the sphere of expanding flame simply appeared around Carrie, engulfing her totally as it exploded into raging being. Its edge touched the oil in the room and ignited it, the chamber bursting into blazing life around the four light warriors, who watched as the explosion dissipated, and looked upon Carrie, who merely grinned.
That was fun.
Laughing, she lunged out, all 6 arms flashing as her swords blurred into life. Luke, as usual, took the 4, attempting to brace most of the swords while Drake took the remainder. 5 of the 6 arms were met in this fashion, but one remained free, holding a massive long sword that even Mr. Smite would have had trouble wielding. Catching Luke at the waist, it smashed him away, freeing most of her arms to slice at Drake, although the elf was able to leap back after only a few hits.
Ha ha ha, was that the best you could ha?
A small, dense-looking green cloud flew into her face, and the Fiend of Fire's eyes closed, as she began to snore.
Looks like the condensed version of sleep can even work on her. Good.
Vlad noted as Luke got back to his feet.
Won't hold for long, though. Then you should use the orb while she's down.
Drake suggested.
That was what ended up killing Lich. It should do the same here. Right.
Vlad pulled out the orb of fire, which was now glowing the same bright blue that Kari's sphere had. Running up to her, he held the orb to her scales, and with a hiss, Kari's eyes snapped open. Her tail shifted and lashed, smashing Vlad and the orb both away.
That was an unpleasant wake-up. Although you could certainly have used the time more constructively.
She noted, then grinned again.
Unless you thought the orb's mere touch would kill me? Fools! It hurts, I will admit, but I am stronger than that. Oh yeah. It didn't kill Lich until I shoved into his heart, or whatever the hell that stuff was.
Drake slapped his forehead. Duh.
Whoa.
He jumped as Carrie lunged for him and Luke again, but this time instead of blocking, he dodged under the blades on the Fiend's left side and countered, opening a slight cut on her side before being forced to retreat with more wounds.
Find time to forget something like that, clown.
Vlad snarled, firing the spray of icicles over their heads. Carrie simply allowed them to impale her and laughed as they melted instantly.
Was that supposed to hurt? Here, let me show you how it's done.
Her mouth opened, and inside was fire. But not red fire. The fire was blue, hotter than anything in the volcano, and now it blasted out, blowing them all to the back of the room as blazing shapes.
Oh, oh!
Mary moaned, healing them all and erasing the burn damage.
Brother, don't! I'm fine.
Vlad snapped, slowly standing.
I can freak out after this. Until then, we have to win. Could be tough, though.
Luke muttered as they advanced on Carrie again, who patiently sat and watched them cross the room again.
She's just as strong as Lich, but totally different in style. He used spells, but she's all about brute strength and speed. Pure power. I heard that.
Carrie called out.
And you're almost right. Almost. I do know a few spells. Here, you can try one.
Her eyes flashed, and twin bolts of darkness extended from them to hit the fighter's eyes.
Ack! I can't see. And without your shield, the rest of you won't stand a chance against me.
The Fiend of Fire crowed, swords flashing as she launched herself out again.
Damn it! Sister, lamp him. Drake, don't freak out.
The black mage snarled, hands moving.
Huh?
Drake blinked.
What are you, whoa?
Below his feet, a pillar of fire rushed up. Thanks to Mary's spell and its low power, he was not harmed, but instead borne over Kari's swords and arms and into her surprised face.
Oh ho! Nice one, man!
Grinning, he slashed her across the face, and Carrie hissed, recoiling before swatting him away. By the time she moved again, though, Luke was back up and moving again, the darkness cleared from his eyes by Mary's spells. He struck first, slashing her on her scaly lower body.
See if you can slow her down somehow again.
He yelled to Vlad as a cutlass slashed him.
That's the only way we can really get her.
Vlad nodded and materialized a familiar-looking orange sphere, which he hurled. Carrie sneeringly blocked it with a sword, then froze, her face changing to surprise just in time.
That's the hold spell. Lich used it to great effect against us. I thought it'd be nice to return the favor.
Vlad informed her.
Carve her up. Got it.
Luke and Drake charged, and their swords slashed out, opening deep cuts and repeating on the same spots over and over again, digging deeper and deeper into the fiend's flesh. What was revealed by the strikes, though, was not gore, but blue fire, blazing and painful.
Ow! Is her entire body filled with this stuff or something? Exactly.
A voice from above drew their eyes up just in time to see a pair of swords smash them away. Carrie glared at Vlad, raising one hand.
If you like hold so much, then taste it yourself.
Vlad tried to dodge, but wasn't agile enough. The hold spell froze him, and Carrie lunged forward, snatching him up and following with another wave of blue fire that blasted the others away. Holding the paralyzed black mage in the air above herself, Carrie grinned maliciously.
As I told you, Vlad. You are mine. Shall it be now, then? Now, that I take you and make you part of me? The fuel for my fire.
Her mouth opened, wider, but no fires came out. They remained inside, blazing blue and dancing, a yawning pit of brilliant flames that Vlad stared down into in horror. Holding him above her maw, Carrie continued to speak without closing it.
This is your fate, Vlad. The fate all who have irritated me have gone to, over all the years since my last awakening. For I am fire, and fire must have food to burn. This is your destiny, little Vlad. Not just me.
The black mage croaked.
I still have the orb of fire.
Kari's eyes widened.
Do this now, and the orb will come with me, into you. That was what really killed Lich. Not the orb's touch, but when it went into his core. If the orb of fire enters your core, what will happen?
Kari's teeth clamped shut, and with a roar of rage she hurled him to the back of the room, alongside his rising friends, healed and back in the fight again.
Fine, then. If you insist on struggling the entire way, I'll kill you first, pry the orb from your dead fingers, and then I will devour you, body and soul.
Blasting forward, she slashed and struck, forcing Luke and Drake back, then unleashed her fire blast and blew them all away. This time, however, she immediately followed up, but not on them. She dove at Vlad, ignoring the lightning he conjured up as a startled defense, and with a triumphant scream lashed at him with all 6 blades she held. His dagger was knocked away as he raised it in a feeble last defense, and the blades bit into his body, blood spurting everywhere.
No.
The black mage coughed, stumbling back.
No. I can't. Die. Not here. No.
Spewing blood from his mouth as well, he collapsed forward, hat covering his head. And Kari laughed.
No. Brother.
Mary screamed.
Damn it! We're screwed without him.
Drake realized grimly.
None of us can use the orb of fire to kill her, I'll bet. So we lose.
Luke stared at the exultant fiend of fire.
Just like that? It's over? She wins.
No, Mary stated firmly, glaring at Kari in hatred.
After the last couple times I've been preparing, I can bring him back. But it's a long spell, and I need full concentration. You two are going to have to keep her off me until I can do it. This is all the help I can give you.
From her hands, white, misty fog spread out, filling the room and obscuring even the flames.
I'm counting on you. When you put it like that, how can we even think of disappointing?
Drake grinned humorlessly.
Let's go. Right.
Luke nodded, and the two of them charged again.
What? What is this?
Kari snarled as the fog overtook her.
You're trying to hide? Fools, that will only delay your own fates.
She slashed downward as she felt Luke's sword slice into her, but missed. Drake did the same a moment later, and her counter missed again. Eyes narrowing, she held her arms together in a cluster, and when next she felt a sword hit, she brought them all down together. One of them struck metal and flesh, and Kari brought the others all around on that spot, causing Luke to bellow in pain. Even through it, however, he was able to continue hacking, and Kari focused on him, ripping and tearing, and forgetting the other, until Drake's sword came at her, borne by its wielder in a full-length run and leap aimed at the base of one arm. And Kari screamed, as the arm flew away, severed.
Oh, yeah.
Luke pumped an arm.
Go Drake! Uh-oh.
Eyes blazing, Kari fire blasted them away, then repeated again, and again, and again, until a shot of darkness hit her eyes, blinding them.
Arg! Dark! But then... Why?
Vlad, risen from the dead, demanded as he stared at the scorched, shattered wrecks of the fighter and the thief, embedded in the wall by the force of the blasts. Mary began healing them, but the black mage simply continued to stare, questioning.
Why? Why did you do all that? Why did you take that for me? I died, and it was my own fault. My weakness. You didn't have to take that for me. Why did you do it? Because...
Luke croaked as his blistered skin was restored.
You said... I was your friend. You admitted it. And... you're our friend too.
Vlad froze.
Yeah. That's it. And friends help each other.
Drake agreed, jumping down.
Mary, you holding up? It's getting close.
The white mage admitted, glancing back at Carrie, who was clawing the blackness from her eyes.
We need to finish her off, soon. Yeah.
Vlad slowly turned back to Carrie, something new in his eyes.
My death was the last one here. I won't let her kill any of you. So, you've come back to me.
Carrie shrieked, eyes blazing again.
I was wrong. That death was not nearly enough pain. No. This time, I'll take everything away from you first. I'll kill your friends, all of them, one by one, in front of your eyes. And then, when you scream and wail in misery, then I will take you.
She belched her fire blast, but Vlad stood in its way, unflinching. No, the black mage replied, voice like ice.
You won't.
Around him, a sphere of fire exploded outward, like the one he had opened the fight with. Carrie stared as it pushed her blast back, repelling it with a heat even greater. And then, in the blink of an eye, the sphere of fire charged forward into her, its speed so great that the backlash of it blew Vlad's hat away from his head as it slammed Carrie into her throne.
Hurt me, and I will burn. But hurt those I care for, and you shall burn in a fire even greater. You will not kill them. Go. Right.
Luke and Drake charged, as Carrie began to rise again in a cloud of smoke.
That was beautiful.
The fiend of fire groaned, visibly damaged by the strike. Much of her snake-like lower body and stomach had been obliterated. Through the charred holes there now, the insane blue fire that filled her could be clearly seen.
Much greater than before.
Her swords came down to greet the warriors, but where Drake held two back as before, Luke bore the other three on his armored back and struck with his sword at the lowest arm on the fiend's right side, severing it.
Now both sides match.
He grinned, sword coming up to hold the remaining two, as the mages charged.
Before, I was fighting only for myself.
Vlad pulled the orb of fire out from his robes.
But when they fought for me, I figured it out. There is something I care about, more than my own life, my own pain. It's not payback. It's my sister, and the two idiots who've been at my side this whole time. If it's to keep them alive, I can banish all my fear of you. So you say, but what will you do when they die?
Carrie grunted, but was unable to free her four remaining arms from the locks of the fighter and the thief.
Damn you! Then burn.
As her mouth began to open again, however, she saw Mary rising up at her on a pillar of fire, and with a sickening crunch, the white mage's hammer smashed into her jaw. And below, Vlad was casting one last spell. One last fireball of tremendous power, of resolve, of everything he stood for, as he hurled the orb of fire into the fiend of fire's exposed interior. Around her, the fire formed, only pausing for a moment to blow the light warriors away without harm as it expanded, swallowing up Carrie in one final explosion. The four light warriors stood, and watched, as it cleared to reveal a blackened, charred skeleton filled with blue fire no longer, but a shining, ruby red with the orb of fire at its core.
You did it! You won!
The blazing wreckage of Carrie hissed.
You destroyed me, after all! You truly are a terror! You may be free of fear now, but in the process, you have become something even more terrible than me. And you shall all become even more terrible yet. And because you are mortal, you will not be content with your power. You shall be your own worst enemies, because you will fear what you become more than you ever feared me. A burning heart.
As her bones began to fade and disappear, Carrie grinned at Vlad one last time.
Don't die, Vlad. Live, and conquer the others, and live after that. For hundreds, thousands of years more. Let me see what you become after this, with nothing left to restrain you, when next I come again. Look forward to it. Until then, goodbye.
Her last laugh trailed off into nothingness, as the red light faded back into the orb of fire, which fell forward into Vlad's exhausted hand.
And thus, the nightmares end.
The black mage said quietly.
All of you. Thank you. It's not over yet. Almost, but not yet.
Drake reminded him with a tired smile.
You gotta put it on the altar. Very well then.
Vlad walked forward.
The fiend of fire is banished. Let the fire be restored.
The color of the light changed, becoming blinding white that washed over the entire cave.
Wait, hold on. When you did this, Earth showed up. Does that mean?
His voice trailed off as the light faded, and they saw the person who now stood before them. Her dress was red, as was her hair, which flowed and moved with a strange life. Her face was beautiful, and her smile warm, as she looked upon them all, eyes dancing.
Hello there. It's nice to meet you all at last. You've probably already guessed, but my name's Fire. And you've brought me back into the world again. Thank you. This is different.
Drake murmured, before catching Mary's eyes and coughing.
I mean... just doing our job, ma'am.
He glanced at Vlad, who was still staring, a bit slack-jawed, and grinned as he slapped the black mage on his back.
Breathe, man. Don't want you passing out after all of that.
Fire laughed as Vlad turned red.
It's all right. I think I owe you most of all, Vlad. No matter what Carrie did to you, you kept going, and you defeated her in the end. Yeah.
Vlad quickly scooped up his hat and shoved it back over his head.
About that. She said something interesting. About her obsession with you.
Fire's smile vanished.
Yes. That was my fault. I owe you an apology, and far more. It wasn't intentional, believe me, but I couldn't help myself. Oh ho.
Mary slowly began to smile.
So that's how it is.
The other looked puzzled, but after a moment Luke grinned as well.
Oh, I get it. Sarah told me this happens sometimes. Well, I certainly don't.
Vlad tried to sound as grouchy as usual, without much success.
What do you mean? How did you make Carrie like that? She said she was connected to me in some ways, right?
Fire shrugged, creating a pair of flaming humanoid shapes on her fingers, one of which had a snake's lower body.
When I felt something strongly, that carried over to her, in a twisted way of course. You've probably guessed by now that me and my siblings created the prophecy, planned for your coming, and shaped the world to prepare for it. In a way, you could say we created you. Each of us took what we felt would be valued most in a hero, and planted the seeds of destiny in that. When it was my turn for that, though, well, I'm the most emotional of us, and I get carried away. When I saw what you would become, and helped to make it happen.
She smiled again.
Like I said, I couldn't help myself.
Vlad blinked, then did so again, and again.
Are you saying? Yup. She likes you too, brother.
Mary grinned and followed Drake's example, pounding him on the back. Now Drake was grinning as well, making Vlad the only one who wasn't.
Ha ha ha. I wouldn't complain, bud. Just the opposite looks to me like you're almost as lucky as I am. Yes, well, enough of that.
Fire decided.
We can talk about that later. For now, well done, all of you. You've completed half your task. But the other two are stronger still, right?
Drake made a face, and Fire nodded.
You got it. And with Kari's death as well, they'll be even more on guard. With her threat gone, though, the sages will be able to advise you on your next actions, and help you prepare for the next part of your journey. Kraken.
Mary guessed.
Actually, no. He can wait. There are other things in your future before you assault the fiends of the north. Things that will dramatically increase your strength, even beyond its current level.
Fire winked.
It might seem like a lot of trouble, but when you're done you'll be happy with the results, trust me. Sounds good.
Luke agreed.
I suppose we should be getting back to Crescent Lake, then. Allow me.
Fire waved her hand, and flames appeared around them all, warming them comfortably without a trace of pain. When they faded, the light warriors were standing outside the volcano, near their canoe, and a small flame remained flickering in the air, with Fire's face visible inside it.
Oh, I can't forget this. Here.
The orb of fire fell out of the flame, and Vlad picked it up.
Light a fire, think of me, and I will come whenever you wish.
She winked again.
And I think I might be able to manage Kari's thing with the dreams too. But with certain things a bit different. I'll see you then.
The fire dissipated, and Vlad slowly tucked the orb of fire back into his pack. Drake glanced at his face, and decided certain action was necessary.
Well. She was hot.
He stated calmly. After a moment, Vlad glared at him.
You're hilarious. Knew that'd work.
The elf grinned.
If all else fails, my jokes are guaranteed to put you in a normal mood. Shame that mood is bad, but can't have everything, eh? Come on, you two, let's go.
Luke admonished, although he was grinning as well.
We still gotta row back to Crescent Lake before we can get some rest. I'll bet that's looking real good for you right now, Vlad. It will be nice to be able to sleep 8 hours straight.
The black mage admitted.
Or 10. Or maybe 12. Right, don't schedule anything big for tomorrow.
Mary noted.
Oh well, I suppose you could do a lot worse in a girlfriend, little brother. Enough, already.
Vlad grumpily grabbed his oar.
I don't hassle you three about this sort of thing, do I? Let's get back to Crescent Lake, already. Whatever you say, loverboy.
Drake whistled, then ducked as a fireball whizzed past his head, and the canoe set off back towards Crescent Lake, accompanied by the sound of laughter. End of chapter.